All right, it's time for another Shark Tank review from a venture capitalist point of view. Let's dive in.
First into the tank is what the entrepreneur hopes is a better and more affordable experience when shopping for intimates.
And I am seeking $500,000 in exchange for 5% of my company.
Hello.
Oh,
Booty
wow.
Bag. Booty Bag is an affordable, comfortable, and convenient way for women to shop for underwear.
Okay, so 500K for 5%. That means she's looking for a, brace yourselves, $20 million valuation right out of the gate. That's why all the sharks are kind of like, oh, wow. I'll be curious to see if she's doing enough revenue to justify it.
So here's how it works. You select how many pairs you want to receive in a month, your size, your style option, and for just $10, we'll deliver your new favorite undies, all without leaving the comfort of your couch. Our mission is to not only bring a necessity to women at an affordable price, but to create a community that represents all women. This brand is made for women, by women, and with every pair purchased, we donate to women in need. So Sharks, who's with me in making all women feel good in their undies?
Terrific.
Ellie, is it a
Amazing.
subscription service?
All right, so let's pause there for a second. Let's just talk about like the value add here, right? Like how is she positioning her brand? So she's making the argument that, if I was able to dissect it correctly, that women face this dichotomy of choice, where it's either if you want affordable, you're digging through the discount bin, or you're spending a lot of money at like probably like a Victoria's Secret or whatever. What she's trying to do is provide something in between. Now, it sounds like her way of getting around that is, one, building a community where she's able to leverage the community to create a lot of the content and push a lot of the marketing at a much lower cost. And then the other thing that's interesting is Kevin O'Leary is about to ask, or just started asking, like, is it a subscription model? So it looks like it is. And so every month somebody's getting a package in the mail. What that allows you to do is lock in a longer lifetime value of the customer. And so you can afford to spend a little bit more to acquire them at the beginning, knowing that they're going to keep buying from you month after month after month.
It's a monthly subscription. You're not committed to anything. So you can get one pair for $10 or two for $15.
Oh, it's one pair for 10 or two for 15.
$20.
And that's every
Still,
month
that seems like a reasonable deal, although I'm not an expert in women's intimates, so.
I kind of stumbled upon going underwear shopping and waiting for the 5 for $25 and going and digging through the bins, and I was like, this is like such a terrible shopping experience. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna just do this. It's gonna be easy. I had a website within 2 days and borrowed $300 and
300.
When was that?
2016.
And since then, what has sales looked like?
Year to date, we've done 3 million.
3 million?
Wow.
Son of a gun.
I love her story. Like, she had her story like dialed in. One, she built a ton of credibility that she's a hustler, that she's been doing business and being entrepreneurial for a long time. I love like entrepreneurs that can really articulate kind of the pain point that they've felt, and then how they're really kind of solving that pain point for themselves.
You know, you started with 300, but how much have you raised since then?
So I've raised none. I have no debt.
Wow.
You've raised no dollars.
No, I'm hoping to raise today.
How did you pay for the inventory?
I just went to the store, I got clearance underwear, and I did the packaging. And then I graduated from that. And then I was like, oh, online, where can I buy bulk underwear?
So this is another thing that I think is great around how she approached the business. She took her $300 and she didn't go and immediately start manufacturing. She went to the store because, if you remember, like, a big part of what she's selling here is a better customer experience. And so she went to the store, she found all the good looking product. She spent her $300 on nice packaging and then sold that better experience to her customers. And she was able to prove that, like, customers really valued the experience that she was providing before she started to invest a lot of money into the business.
And then I found a manufacturer and I did private label and I graduated all the steps, and actually by demand forced me to figure out how to produce my own line.
Best story I've ever heard so far.
love
Okay,
this.
but how did people find you at the beginning?
Yeah, so we have a huge following on Instagram.
And how did you garner that
And
following?
It's all actually user-generated content on our feed. So we have real women posting. We don't edit our content, so it's as you come.
Just one last number.
Yeah.
Cumulative lifetime sales.
Yeah, so 15 million to date.
I mean, $300 to $15 million in sales.
Unreal.
Really?
You're a rock
Guys,
You know-
star.
I was so nervous. I'm so excited. Thank
Now,
you.
the one
You
thing,
should
the one
be.
thing that I think is getting everybody so excited because it's really worth talking about is every other subscription service
Yeah.
has to raise a ton of money
Right.
early on to acquire customers.
Right.
You should be rolling in the dough.
So let's just pause there for a second. So he makes a really good point. I've invested in a lot of subscription businesses, both enterprise software as well as in the consumer product space. And he's right. Like, normally what happens is you've got this subscription business and you've got to spend a lot of money to acquire the customers, to get them on the platform to start. The fact that she's done it like totally bootstrapped without having to raise money is really impressive, because what it's implying is she's making money on the very first sale when she acquires that customer. And it sounds like I mentioned earlier, the way she's doing it is she's got this community that's providing a ton of user-generated content. They're basically like doing a lot of the advertising for her. She's clearly like tapped into like a real pain point that women are facing, and they obviously really like the product. The other thing I want to talk about is, so she's got $15 million in cumulative sales, and she's done $3 million year to date. The fact that she's at $3 million year to date, what's tough is to know where that's coming out overall. But my guess is that revenues have probably grew pretty quickly, and my impression is she's probably plateaued quite a bit. And I don't know why she's plateaued. It might be that she lacks the cash. She probably has like huge inventory issues, and she probably also has big marketing expenses to really start growing it and moving it beyond like early adopters into kind of more mass market.
Yeah,
Why
so,
are you coming here and asking for 500,000?
So our production actually is, I use a broker right now. In a proper scenario, if I did have the direct factory connection, I would be able to have shorter lead times. I'm working on extremely long lead times because I'm just
What are your lead times right now?
They're about 8 months to 9 months.
Whoa.
What?
8 months?
So she designs all those things and then she sends them off, and she's got to wait 8 months, which means she's got to know what next year is going to look like and what are going to be the most like popular items a year in advance, which is really tough to do.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So I'm kind of in their mercy. I'm very small on some of the scales that they do.
Why don't you partner with the manufacturer so that you never have inventory?
Well, that's why I'm kind of here.
So that's an interesting idea. She could partner with the manufacturer, but one of the challenges of partnering with the manufacturer is that now she's kind of beholden to that one manufacturer. So on the one hand, it could be an interesting idea because that manufacturer may be willing to work with her and reduce like minimum order volume. The flip side is then she's really tied in. She's probably better off, in my opinion, not tying herself directly too tightly with one manufacturer so she can keep her options open, right? Like, you don't want to be in a position where your supplier can really control your business, because if you're in that position, they can take a ton of value. It won't surprise me if that's what's going on right now with her brokers, where they kind of know they've got her and she doesn't have the resources and capital to go around them. And so they're kind of like dragging out and stealing as much of her profits as they can.
Really haven't made any money yet.
I mean, we net 5%.
Whoa.
Yeah, see, so right there, she's only netting 5%. To me, that is screaming that her brokers they're not stealing, but I mean they're capturing a lot of that value creation that she's creating, right? And they're doing it because they can, right? They're suppliers. So this is classic Porter's Five Forces supplier power, where she's got one supplier she's beholden to. She doesn't have the control, and they have basically increased the prices to a point where like she's just barely eking by at 5%.
Successful clothiers that have real scale make 15% pre-tax.
Yeah.
You're at 5%, so there's
Yeah.
10% of cost in here, and I think I'm gonna find it all in the inventory. And so you gotta get rid of that. You gotta partner. It's
Yeah.
worth giving up some of this equity to your manufacturer
Yes.
to solve this problem.
Yes.
How are they treating you? I'm just
Terribly.
curious. They
Absolutely
treat you terribly.
Which I don't know.
Unbelievable. Are they
Are
men?
they women or men?
Men, yes.
What a surprise.
Yeah, they have never ever been flexible with me. They've made me take product that was actually, stained or damaged, and like I just.
So I hate to admit this, but like she kind of has a point that men don't really understand women's businesses a lot of the time. Matt Kohler, who's a partner at Benchmark, passed on Pinterest. And like, it was like, I mean, he missed out on probably billions of dollars of return for his fund because of it. And he jokes that, you know, in the mornings he wakes up, he looks at the mirror and he reminds himself that he's not a middle-aged woman, because he clearly missed out on like that opportunity, because like he didn't see it. He didn't understand kind of that mentality or psychology. And, you know, that's not an uncommon thing in our industry where, frankly, like, you know, what is it? Like, women represent less than 20% of decision makers at venture funds.
What you have created with $300, how you have harnessed the power of social media. You're creating a movement around your brand, which is so unbelievable. You know my story. I started with $500 out of my extra bedroom. The first few years, my margins also were not what they are today because I wasn't able to harness great manufacturing deals. I didn't have the production I needed. But over the last 18 years, those things have been able to change, right? I don't want you to have to wait 18 years. And
so that's a great point. Taking venture money, not always like, there are trade-offs. But one of the trade-offs that's positive is that an investor can really help push your business and help accelerate things and take that like 18 years that she talked about and that headache and shrink it down to a much shorter time frame. So, you know, if on the one hand, control is really important to you, then, you know, maybe don't take investor money. On the other hand, if time is super valuable to you, then it might make sense to actually raise venture money.
so if it's okay, I'm gonna offer you the $500,000, but I want 10%. I understand subscription. We've done that in our company. We know how to create community. You're a female founder, and there's not enough of us out there.
Hell yeah.
I am one of 20 women in the United States to be a founder of a billion-dollar brand.
So, you know, look, that seems fairly reasonable to me as a valuation. Hard to know how that compares on growth. But you know, I did a little bit of research on Kendra Scott, and her business is doing about 360-ish million in revenue and valued at $1 billion. So she's also, like, her business is being valued at about 3x. On the one hand, like, she did cut the valuation in half. On the other hand, I don't think it's an unreasonable valuation.
May I make you an offer as well? I could solve the two real problems you have. You don't get any money out of this business, and that's the problem. That's what business is for. I have a business that's been in business 5 years, Grace and Lace. They sell like gangbusters. I'm only a 20% partner, and last month I got a $700,000 check.
Nice.
They're so cash rich, and they're in the exact same business you're in. Your other problem is you don't know how to manufacture in Asia. You just don't have that experience. Because I have that experience at Grace and Lace, I can deliver all that to you immediately. And so I would like to give you the $500,000, but I really would have to take 20%.
So she's offering the same thing, but at a like $5 million valuation. So like a pretty decent, pretty high cut. But her thing is, and she makes some good points, is like, look, we're not going to build this into $1 billion business. We're going to build it into a cash flowing business. And we're going to do that almost immediately. You know, that's an interesting trade-off, because on the one hand, what Kendra Scott is offering is like, let's build this into something big, right? But like, we're going to need to raise more money. We're going to need to make big changes. Like, we're going to have to build out the infrastructure. And this whole thing's going to take a lot longer before you start seeing a dime. And what Barbara's really offering is saying, look, you've built an amazing lifestyle business here. It doesn't need to be $1 billion company. You could be at a point within almost immediately putting massive amounts of cash in your pocket. And that could actually be compelling, right? You're going to give up more equity because at the end of the day, like, the upside maybe isn't as big for Barbara as it would be for Kendra, you know, building into $1 billion business. But the flip side is it's probably lower risk.
Wait a second, hold on.
At 20%, there's enough for each of us.
At 20%.
Not at 10%.
I would also like to make an offer. I look at this from just the sheer economics. I know where the 10 to 15% is missing. It's in the manufacturing. I also have logistics in Vietnam. I've got 3 companies manufacturing there now. $500,000 for 15%. Just say yes and we'll move forward.
Would you guys go up to $700,000 for 20%?
Wow.
For $700 for 20%?
Who's a shark?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
You're not worth $10 million today.
And when you bring on the right team, that is worth more than you could ever put on a check.
Right.
But you have to feel comfortable with that, too.
Yeah. You know, 20% just feels a little high, and I'm not undervaluing you guys at all. I appreciate both of your offers. It was a little bit higher than I wanted to go with.
I'm willing to do it at 15.
Okay, I'll go back to my original offer if you're not comfortable with that. I'll do 500 for 10%.
Excuse me, did you just abandon me?
I abandoned you. It sounds
Wow.
like I abandoned you because I could see in her face that that made her feel sick and made her feel less than and made her worth feel not valued. And I can't.
So you're willing to do it for 10%?
With my original offer. I think 10 is fair based
Done.
on my experience.
Let's not even think about it anymore.
That's
Yes,
done?
Done.
So I think this is a great outcome for the entrepreneur. I think honestly she would have been a little bit better off giving up a little more equity, because I think Barbara could have brought some real value there, but I don't know that she's going to bring a massive amount of value more than Kendra. And so ultimately, I think she's in a really good spot. Thanks for joining me for this one. Hope you found it interesting. I thought it was a really great pitch, really interesting business. I've done a bunch more of these. Check them out up here. If there's any that I might have missed that you think are really interesting, throw them in the comments below and we'll add them to the list to review. Thanks.